Senator Ayo Arishe joins us now. He's a former chairman of the Senate Committee on Privatization. Thank you for coming on this morning, Senator.
Thank you for having me.
Well, yesterday we did talk about this constituency project. Well, people don't quite understand what exactly it is, even though they understand some parts of it. Senator Sabi Abdullahi also spoke on this yesterday during the program. But we had Dr. Tunji Abayemi, who strongly disagrees with that concept, whether or not it should be applied. Give us some understanding. What is this really about while you were in the Senate?
Well, thank you. We inherited that culture during the Sixth Senate in terms of asking for some funds to carry out constituency assignments in terms of giving back to your respective communities. But I believe that is the same situation with the current Senate, the 8th Senate. But that really does not stop us from looking at, having run that for a while now, looking at the merits. Is it legal? Is it desirable? Is it the purpose of what the National Assembly should be doing? There is no question that the National Assembly has the power over the purse, and that is through appropriation. That is the most significant function of the legislators, and that is the way it is in the US. And so we copied that constitution, but it's not the application. When you look at the constituency programs, I think why most people are agitated and start questioning the constituency program. First, there is that misconception that you put the money there, you influence the execution of that project. And that has been the main contention. And you look at it that initially, I mean, for those of us, when I went in early, I had to give my constituency project to the river basin authorities for the dams in my senatorial district.
How was that allocated to you? Was it given to you or your contractor to execute?
No, I was actually, I mean, like every other senator, I was asked to say, what do you want to do in your areas? So you list them and give it to the appropriation committee. Now, the appropriation committee in the Senate? Yes, in the Senate. They will now look at it and see what you are looking at. Mine now fell under the river basin authorities. Those ones were, were executed through the Bini office. And
sorry, which office?
The Bini office, the Bini River Basin Authority.
Oh, okay.
And that is how it goes for most of
so it's not
legislators.
It's not the legislatures that actually executes them.
It is the executive that should execute.
Yeah, but
and it's actually still the executive that executes. But the question is, what kind of influence do you have? I think the legislators became more and more involved because many of these projects were not executed. And some now said, okay, they know who would execute for them. So invariably they have the influence to say to the MDAs. That
yeah, because
yes.
The other time, while the controversy raged,
yes.
it also came to bear that legislators were the ones identifying who was going to execute the contracts for them, and not the executive arm of government.
That by and large could happen.
No, but that happened. Not
yes.
that it could, it did happen.
It could happen. So
it did.
Okay, if that is the case, that is where the conflict of interest now comes in. And that now becomes the illegality.
Didn't it happen in the 6th
yes.
Senate?
In the 6th Senate, it might have happened. But, I came in newly, and my understanding was that this morning, we gave it to the river basin. And as I speak to you, the first time I met those guys that actually did my computer centers, the ICT centers, was way after they had been given the job and they did not perform, so I reported them. Now they now came to meet with me and said, where are the computers that you're supposed to put in these places? Some were supposed to do the building. I didn't know from Adam those that were given the jobs. And of course, if anyone, I mean, they're all Nigerians, so they can write to you if I had any interaction with them. I didn't know anything about it. But in the final year, we started understanding a little bit more of the system. That, okay, maybe if you know who will do the job, it might be better. But of course, it was that final year that many of us did not come back. So we had no influence in the execution of...
okay, so if many of you had come back, they were going to have a direct influence
certainly,
on who was going to execute their constituency project.
Certainly, there would have been that lineage. It probably would have happened, because I would have known who is executing the person, or I would have even been able to say, oh, this is the contractor that I'm interested in doing this
And
job.
this was done every year?
Oh, this, yes, more so, you know, it's like every year, more or less. But when you look at it, the reasons why that happened was because many of these projects were not done. And the senators got upset. But of course,
the reason what happened?
Why many senators started getting involved in who actually would do the job is because many of those jobs were not executed. That is the more reason that I know. But again, because that started happening, you don't know what the next step will be. So it is in an attempt to resolve a problem that this issue of interference now came in. And of course, when you look at it critically, I ask myself, there are city centers that we built. What has become of them? Those putting in solar lights on the streets, what has become of them? Who replenished the bulbs? So it's really not a role of the National Assembly. It is the role of the executive.
Pardon, but was it that you embarked on a separate project every year?
More so, yes. More likely, you put something in a year, you could say, okay, you want to focus on the dams for fixing. The dams are a lot easier because those are under the river basins. Now, if you say you want to build up a clinic, for example, who takes it over? Is it the state? Is it the federal hospitals?
You know, there must be some catch here.
Exactly.
Senator Arishe.
Yes.
I still want to go back to the issue Chamberlain tried to oppose, and you said they could. We're looking at the contractors now,
yes,
because there's always been allegations that most of the members in the National Assembly, they either get people, contractors by proxy, or even directly, or friends and relatives, and people to execute such contracts. Is that what it is? So that people can better understand why this call is getting louder more so now.
Well, let me say it is happening. As a contractor, you go and approach some senators. You know these projects will happen in their communities. So you approach them. You go to the National Assembly, you talk to them. I want to do this, I want to do this. So somehow, they exert that influence and probably talk to the MDA and say, okay, hey, this person says he can do this job. And that now could become a big problem because of the conflict of interest. You see, you cannot, as the legislator, or as a legislator, you do not have the right to execute. If you put a constituency project in, then the Office of Budget Compliance or Management and the MDA will put in place structures. And these structures are the things that we have tried, or Nigeria has tried to put in place over a period. The Office of the Bureau of Public Procurement, I don't see how effective those ones are. The truth of the matter is, you are not going to bring angels to run any organization in Nigeria. But we must, if there are actions against violations of some of these things, you will discover that everybody will sit up.
But do legislatures have the right to put in constituency projects in the budget?
Constitutionally, constitutionally, the way it is run, when the president submits a budget, I'm looking at the US pattern because that is where we borrowed from. The National Assembly or the legislators, they control the purse. They have the right on appropriation. Now, but it's not for a thing to say, I want this for my, for satisfying some of my people. But they are there to say, a road passing through point A to point B, you can influence it and say, yes, I want you to put money in this. And that is something you have to work out with the executive, ab initio. And when it comes, they still have to give approval, either increase the money or reduce it. That is still within the limits of the National Assembly. They control appropriation. And that is, but now, in controlling the appropriation, it is the way it is practiced in the advanced countries is different from the way we understand it. And we're still learning. Still learning. I say law is awesome power in terms of appropriation. It belongs to the National Assembly.